This chapter was a really good chapter. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed reading this chapter. It was so packed with little bits of information. I mean, almost every page had a new bit of information, adding to the curses that both Elizabeth is afflicted with and Meliodas is afflicted with. Adding to who afflicted the curses. I mean, we knew the Demon King was going to afflict Meliodas' curse. That's what we thought. But I thought personally that Meliodas and Elizabeth would both have been afflicted by the Demon King's curse. Curses seem more of a demonic thing, but it seems that the Supreme Deity of the Goddess clan was the one who inflicted one of the curses, or maybe contributed to both of the curses on both Meliodas and Elizabeth. So we got to see all of that, and it was just a really good chapter. I mean, especially when we got to see the panels where we saw the Demon King and the Supreme Deity. I was like, whoa, they looked so cool. I mean, they looked so badass. The Demon King looks awesome. He's huge. I mean, compared to Meliodas, who we know is his son, he's gigantic. He's huge. And the Supreme Deity, likewise, she's huge. But we don't see her face. It's almost like the biblical thingy. We don't see the face of the deity, which is weird for a manga anyway. So yeah, the chapter was Nanatsu no Taizai 224. That is our way of life. So we find out here that the Meliodas and Elizabeth are punished for their exact crimes. Are Meliodas is taking the hand of a goddess clan member and betraying, killing his own comrades, and then Elizabeth is taking the hand of a demon and saving the commandments, or playing a part in saving the Ten Commandments. So they were afflicted, these curses, by their gods, or by their leaders, the Demon King and the Supreme Deity, who both look badass, as I've already mentioned. And then they were fighting against their deities, their gods, or their leaders, and they were getting their asses handed to them. Meliodas and Elizabeth, they were getting whooped. So essentially they were both, well, not even essentially, they were both legitly just straight up killed by their leaders. However, Meliodas was the only one that woke up, and Elizabeth was dead. And then we find out later on in the chapter that it's because Meliodas was afflicted with his curse of eternal life, and Elizabeth was dead, but then she reincarnated later on due to her curse of perpetual reincarnation. So that's their curses: eternal life, Meliodas, and perpetual reincarnation for Elizabeth. Now, we pretty much already knew this, but this was more of a confirmation chapter, and it lays down the specifics of the curses, which I'll get on to later. So the Holy War ended whilst they were unconscious. So our boy Gowther must have done something. And there's a point I'm going to bring later on in this review where Mr. Joffboat, Mr. Joffboat from Manga Stream Comments, you'll probably find him on Discus or something. Mr. Joffboat, Jofbaut, but Mr. is also part of his name, so it's Mr. Joffboat. He brings up really just a few solid points. In 2 paragraphs, he responds to some guy, but he responds twice, and he brings up some solid points which I've actually got written down, and I'm gonna read them out to you, and hopefully you'll understand what I took from that as well. So Meliodas realizes that he stopped aging, and he must have then wondered after the war, because the war was over when he woke up, and he saw Elizabeth's dead body, and he was like, wow, and he cried and everything. So Mel stopped aging, and he must have wondered for around, I think, 18 years before he meets the next reincarnation of Elizabeth, who's now 18 looks to be around 18 years old. She's somewhere between 16 and 20 by the looks of how she's drawn. So yeah, they meet for the first time, and obviously Meliodas is like over the moon. She opens herself up to him almost immediately, and then soon after that, her right eye awakened. So Meliodas, this is the first time he met her incarnation, so he was like, her reincarnation. So he was like, yeah, bruh, this is Elizabeth, defo confirmed. Her right eye's gone full goddess and shit. I gotta tell her who she is and who I am, who we were together and what we did. So he tells her everything about who they were, their memories and all that, the war. So that triggers her memories returning, and it soon awakens her left eye. So with her left eye came the entirety of her memories, and then kind of she remembers everything. She tells Meliodas, "Look, bitch, I remembered everything. I need to tell you what's wrong with us. We're cursed." So Meliodas swears to Elizabeth then and there that he'll break the curse, even if Elizabeth should die, which she has done about 106 times, up to the 107th incarnation of Elizabeth, which is the current one. So then 3 days later, after she's explained the curse and everything, what's her name? Elizabeth dies, and it's quite a gruesome panel. She's got this wooden spear. It's almost not even a spear. It's just a wooden sharpened wooden stake, almost a huge ass stake, that's just impaling her against a rock, and she's dead. And Meliodas is just there watching. He couldn't do anything. So that seems to be part of his curse, and it is explained. And we also get a little bit of a bomb dropped in this chapter, which none of us really expected, and no one seems to really be that hype about. Someone mentioned it in the manga stream comments, and I was like, what, really? But the Demon King is Meliodas' father, we knew that. But the Supreme Deity is Elizabeth's mother. And this explains why the 4 archangels had, or the 3 archangels we saw at the least, had so much respect for Elizabeth. They couldn't do anything, and they called her Lady Elizabeth, I think it was, because of her stature. And probably why she has such power, because she's the daughter of the Supreme Deity, just as Meliodas is the son of the Demon King. So this is all very Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. So Meliodas' curse is simple. Meliodas will never age, and he will never die. And he will never die in quotation marks, because it's, if he should die, he will be revived, and then, you know, in purgatory, when he comes back from purgatory, he loses a bit of his humanity. He loses a bit of his, what was it? I think it was, he loses a bit of his humanity and power, or something like that. Or was it just his humanity? And that the Demon King in purgatory feeds off of that and strengthens, and all in his journey to come back. The Demon King is trying to come back. So every time Meliodas dies, the Demon King's on his way to coming back. And Elizabeth's curse is a little bit more intricate. Elizabeth lives out shorter lifespans as a human, with no recollection of who she is or who she was, and if she regains her memories, she dies 3 days hence. But every time she's born, she will this is part of the curse, she will inevitably meet up with Meliodas and fall in love with him. So he's screwed either way. He can run, he can swim away, he can go to anywhere he wants. She will find him, and she will fall in love with him. She's like, I will find you and I will kill you. It's a bit like that. So she will fall in love with him, she will find him, and then inevitably die before his eyes again, before she's reincarnated again. So as I said before, this is the Elizabeth 107, the current one, and 106 have died before her. So he's seen her die 106 times, and you would have thought, he'd be used to it by now. But then when you think about it a little bit more, he's basically spent years with each incarnation of Elizabeth, and he's loved her, and he's come to basically be in an intimate relationship with her, and then he's had to watch her die every time. So it's not something you really get used to. So Meliodas goes on to say, to alleviate the curse, the power level of someone on the level of the Supreme Deity or the Demon King would be required. So the same power level as the 2 people who afflicted the curse. And Zeldaris is the only one at the moment who seems to be alive who has that type of power level, which is kind of a bit, when you think about it, if Zeldaris has a power level anywhere near the Demon King, Meliodas in his prime was getting his ass handed to him by the Demon King. I mean, I understand the Supreme Deity was there, but he was getting his ass whooped. The Demon King wasn't even, he didn't seem to have a scratch on him. So Zeldaris, if he can get to that power level, if you like, it needs to awaken his commandment, or just if he just has another form, he's going to kick some ass. Zeldaris is going to be a beast. So we already knew Zeldaris was a boss, but he's going to be more of a boss if he can actually borrow the full power of the Demon King, because that's basically what we've kind of been led to believe. He can utilize the full power of the Demon King. So the alleviation of the curse also, I think there was a weird panel in Manga Stream I didn't really understand, but it seems to mean that he talks about Bartra's prophecy, and it seems to mean that the alleviation of the curse also requires the revival of the 10 Commandments and the disbanding of the sins. So the revival of the 10 Commandments seems obvious. Zeldaris would come back, and then the disbanding of the sins would be Meliodas dies, Elizabeth dies, and the sins don't stay together, so they disband. So then Meliodas ends the chapter on a happy note, and he sets the group's focus and Diane's focus, because they're all shook. Ban is shook. You don't see his eyes in one of the panel. Escanor seems to just be like, yo, what the shit. King is shook. Merlin seems to already know all this, but she's not in a good mood. She's not happy about it. Hawk is shook. Diane is crying. She's crying her eyes out. What other commandments are there? And even Gowther, with his newly found emotions, he's saddened by the news as well. So at least Meliodas ends on a happy note, and he sets the group's focus on Korand and the dimensional distortion which they need to destroy. So now, as I was talking about, Mr. Joffboat says that his comment was to do with, I've forgotten what he was answering to, but he says the most likely, so I think they were talking about the Hern of Kernunos or something like that. There was a word for it, Kernunos I think it was. And they're talking about who inhabits the Horn of Kernunos. Who was it inside? Which goddess was it? So this person thinks, Mr. Joffboat thinks that was it was most likely Elizabeth's mother, but then goes on to say later on that it could be any other goddess as well, but it could be Elizabeth's mother, who wanted Meliodas dead. She most likely knows the circumstances of killing Meliodas, which is the gradual return in power of the Demon King. So what they're saying is, if the Demon King comes back, the Supreme Deity comes back. Maybe it does work like that. So after the original Elizabeth died and Meliodas blacked out, for some reason the Demon King ended up in purgatory, and the Goddess clan disappeared without a trace, with their powers vanquished. Now, we already knew this part, but the timing wasn't really sorted out. But now we know the Demon King and the Supreme Deity afflicted their curses, the war ended, suddenly the Demon King's in purgatory, and the Supreme Deity and the Goddess clan they vanish. So this can only lead me to believe, because Mr. Joffboat seems to, I'm not sure whether he was thinking it or whether he just missed out on it. He doesn't really mention Gowther, OG Gowther. So what I'm thinking is maybe OG Gowther, because he had a big plan how to stop the war. So his plan must have involved somehow trapping the Demon King in purgatory, and getting rid of the Goddess clan wherever the hell they went, including the Supreme Deity. That guy did something to the demon. I am convinced he did something to the Demon King and the Supreme Deity, because there is no way he stopped that war without stopping the leaders of the war, and the fact that they disappeared right after the war ended and right after they inflicted their curses on Meliodas and Elizabeth. He must have done something immensely sick to have done that. I mean, two of the most powerful mofos in the story we've seen so far, handing Meliodas and Elizabeth in their prime states, their asses to them. I mean, oh my god, OG Gowther must have done something beastly. So then he goes on to say the goddess who was speaking to Ban through the horn of Kernunos, maybe Elizabeth's mother, probably intentionally wanted to accelerate the revival of the Demon King, because they are both probably tied to the same fate. Bringing back the Demon King would probably bring back Elizabeth's mother, thus continuing to be a threat to the world. So then the other response was, at some point near the end of the war, the Goddess clan lost both their powers and their physical forms. We already know this. It's touched upon in chapter 154, where Denzel brings back Nerobasta. And there are also various references through the series that the Goddess clan just up and vanished. We already know this, but Mr. Joffboat is reiterating. So in chapter 183, the Demon King briefly explains the function of the curse that he put on Meliodas. Every time he dies, he loses a fragment of his humanity and emotions. That was it, not his power. His fragment of his humanity and his emotions, which also helps restore the Demon King in power. So both the Demon King and the Supreme Deity were present when the curses were placed, but they somehow both vanished and were vanquished from the mortal plane. It is just strange that whomever spoke through the horn of Kernunos, who may or may not be the Supreme Deity herself, would want Meliodas dead, with all of these things considered. So what they're saying is, if the Horn of Kernunos was indeed the Supreme Deity, they would know the curse that was afflicted to Meliodas. So if they wanted Meliodas dead, then in turn they would want the return of the Demon King. Because, the whole... every time Meliodas dies, he loses a fragment of his humanity and emotions. Now, this review is going to be long because of this whole Mr. Joffboat thing. But, so, what they're saying is there's some sort of relationship between the Supreme Deity and the Demon King. Now, whether that's right or not, I'm not sure. There might be specifics that we still do not know in terms of whether the Demon King afflicted his curse to his son, and whether the Supreme Deity afflicted her curse to her daughter, and whether they were both privy to each other's curses, whether they knew about the curses that they'd given to their kids, or whether they gave the entirety of the details. Maybe the Supreme Deity doesn't know that every time Meliodas dies he feeds the return of the Demon King. We don't know that. That's an assumption we have to make if we're going to go by Mr. Joffboat's thingy comment. But all I'm saying is Gowther is the only reason that the Demon King would be in purgatory, or that the Supreme Deity would have just up and vanished along with the Goddess clan. So Gowther must have done something immensely sick to get rid of the Demon King and stop the war, with as well as getting rid of the Supreme Deity. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you guys think of Mr. Joffbud's theory, and let me know what you think of my kind of input into that theory of Gowther's intervention or interjection into that whole. He must have done something. I mean, there's nothing else that could have happened. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. This is gonna be a long ass review. I apologize for that, but I'll see you guys on Thursday when I. Is it? Yeah, there is a chapter, yeah, for One Piece, so I'll see you guys then.